It's lucky. Today, is Giannis happy with what the Bucks are up to? I'm not sure. What should he be? Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers said, you know what, I'm going to have some guys over in Malibu, and some guys went. 2 pictures. I thought there were going to be action photos when Dusty sold us this story. It's like, yeah, there's pictures of the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers working out in Malibu. I said, great.
Whose Instagram were they from?
Aaron Rodgers.
Famously reclusive Aaron Rodgers?
But there was also like a pro sport perforence or something like that. It's a performance place.
Oh, okay.
But with a very like down the middle name.
Got it.
Like workout performance. Like a protein supplement that you get at GNC, like your mom would get you when you're 16.
KW, we got
like you need to get stronger.
We're on the air.
I'm tired of you getting bullied. Take this creatine. LeBron opts into his deal. Rich Paul hinting at a trade because the Lakers are building for the future while they're trying to win at the same time. You know, it's tricky. Thread the needle. Yeah. One part of that building process, DeAndre Ayton coming over from the Blazers, who are still paying him to play against them, so that's never good. One departure, Dorian Finney-Smith to the Rockets.
Yeah, and that was a weird one because it's according to Zach Lowe, they like badmouthed him to the market, and it's sour.
Yeah, was that was 100% locked in? It felt really bad to Pelinka.
It seems like there was a lot of speculation the Lakers were trying to cool whatever market Dorian Finney-Smith might have, and his agent and he caught wind of it, which is one of the reasons he wanted to leave, which is, you know, really, really smart when you're trying to get Luka to sign an extension, and Luka famously adores Dorian Finney-Smith.
Unwise.
Yeah.
So what do you make of the Lakers offseason?
I think
take a guess. You don't love it.
Like most of their off seasons since this group's been in charge, underwhelming.
Eek.
And Jake LaRavia might be good eventually. Like, he's fine, but he for next year is worse than Dorian Finney-Smith. Now maybe it's like, well, he's 5 years younger, and that's fine. But if we're talking about right now, anytime a player is available because he was bought out, that typically means that player has, you know, massive either red flags or flaws, or there is the rare occasion, I suppose, when it could happen where it's just like Kevin Love is probably about to be bought out by Utah. I don't think that's an indictment on Kevin Love. I think it's that, and he obviously is not.
He even tweeted like he was a math problem.
Right, and so at times it could be different. But when you're let me couch it like this. If you're in the prime of your career and you get bought out by a team, that's usually
Ben Simmons-y.
Right, it's usually not great. And that's what, that's how they're addressing the center position. And so I think Rich Paul's statement was correct, that the Lakers are trying to straddle this 2-track thing, which I think is foolish because they are one of the only teams in the league that no matter how down you are on the guy who just finished 6th in MVP voting, LeBron James, they have definitively 2 top 15 players. And I mean, that's the most conservative you can be. I would think that team would try to be winning while they definitely have 2 top 15 players. Instead, the plan seems to be, we might punt on this year and maybe quietly next year because we hope to, in 2027, get another top 15 player to put with Luka. It doesn't make sense to me. And so because of that, I hope that LeBron is open to being traded. Because I think LeBron going to the Knicks, I know some people have speculated for OG Anunoby and for Mitchell Robinson. I understand why the Lakers would want that. I don't know for the Knicks if having a team built around Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and 41-year-old LeBron James is going to be good enough defensively for 4 rounds of the playoffs. But I think if you do LeBron instead of for OG and Mitchell Robinson, LeBron for Karl-Anthony Towns, I think that could fit the Lakers' timeline well, keep their cap space open in 2 years, which they want, and would make the Knicks, who are already the favorites in the East, the runaway favorites in the East.
I know DeAndre Ayton has his flaws, let's say, but Moneyball style, Jonah Hill, it's like, here's a #1 draft pick that will give you 15 and 10. His one flaw is He seems to be
immature.
There was a report in The Athletic that he was late to meetings, skipped rehab, and just had maybe some, I don't want to use the exact words, temper tantrums?
Yeah.
Was it in the locker room? But was it a locker room issue? If I am Rob Pelinka, I say, okay, you're at this point an underachieving player for a #1 pick. And I've got J.J. Redick, who has proven to be headstrong and has a direction for the team to the point where, and we joke around about it, Luka seems to be taking his offseason more seriously, perhaps in part because J.J. was like, we need to get in championship shape. And LeBron, who has been able to make all sorts of characters work in his 20-plus years in the league. I don't think DeAndre Ayton's challenges that he had in Portland and in Phoenix are also going to pop up in a LeBron James-led locker room.
They did in a Chris Paul locker room. I mean, Chris Paul's a hell of a leader.
I know. And I thought about that when I was making that argument. I was like,
Chris Paul's a hell of a leader, and Monty Williams, who is well known to be the nicest man in the NBA, couldn't stand this guy.
Yeah.
And so
there was also the argument in The Athletic that Chauncey has played with a number of guys that he's learned how to make stuff work.
And so it is, I want to make this clear. For the money they're paying him, given what was available, it's a worthwhile dice roll.
Mm-hmm.
I am not acting like there is no chance he turns things around. But he has, up to this point in his career, been in empty calories 15 and 10.
Yes.
And I would argue the thing the Lakers needed most from the center, catching lobs is nice, but what they needed was a defensive presence, and I don't know how much he's going to provide of that.
That's fair. Meanwhile in Denver, look who's back on the bandwagon. Michael Porter Jr. headed to Brooklyn. Cam Johnson to the Nuggets. Bruce Brown back, and I never wanted him to leave. Jonas Valanciunas expected to back up Joker.
Yeah,
although there's some contractual, what I wrote here, fuzziness.
When it's like, we expect you to honor your contract. What if he's like, no, I live in Europe now? What are they going to extradite him? Like, I don't
Not
think it's
100% sure. He might play overseas. Should Jokic be happy with Denver's offseason?
I think so. I'll let you go on it because you're going to flirt with Denver and then you're going to go with the defending champs.
No, I'm not
eventually.
going to. I'm not going to.
Okay.
First of all, Denver is my one true recent love.
Okay.
I've flirted with some teams in the Western Conference. I flirted with the Rockets. But Denver was that's where my heart was.
Yeah.
The fact that Michael Porter Jr. couldn't raise one of his arms.
Right arm, yeah.
Aaron Gordon was hobbling around with a
hamstring.
I thought, I was thinking it was a quad. A torn hamstring, bandaged up, and still took the defending champions, or now they're the defending champions, took the eventual champions to 7, I think is great. Here's the other thing. I like Adelman. I feel like, all right, I was a Malone guy, but I liked Adelman. And what they've addressed, besides Bruce Brown being, I think, a nice locker room guy, energy guy, they took the fewest three-pointers in the league last year. This is not like brain surgery. Let's take some threes. The Celtics took 48 a game. Denver took 32, right? So 12 a game, they were 28th. 32 attempts, they were last. They get Cam Johnson, who took 7. That was his career high, Josh.
Yeah, but Michael Porter Jr. took a lot. Like, that's who they're sending out.
Yeah, well, yeah. Then also get Hardaway Jr. who took 6. So I feel like it is going to be a little bit more, and I think Cam Johnson just gives you more than Michael Porter Jr.
I also think that, what I also think might change is that Dave Adelman's philosophy might be different than Michael Malone's.
Yes.
So they might lean into it more. Listen, I think this is an excellent offseason for them. I think that your starting lineup, we would assume, is going to be Jamal, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, and Joker. I think that's pretty much locked in.
Love it.
And then you have during the regular season in particular, assuming Jonas is with the team, you can rest Joker longer and not die on offense. Because while Jonas is a very limited defensive player, you can run some offensive possessions through him. Bruce Brown has struggled some since leaving Denver. The hope for Denver is that it's not because he deteriorated as a player. It's because he, like most guys, are their best selves with Joker, being the hub of everything. I agree with you on Tim Hardaway Jr., who a few years ago when the Mavs made a Western Conference Finals run, he was excellent. He kind of fell out of favor in a few places since then, but he can be a more than useful shooter, at least in the regular season. And then you hope that Watson and Strother, your two young guys who got some playoff minutes because they're young, are improving. I think people have probably given up on Zeke Naji and that money they gave him. But still, we just listed 10 guys. And so a team that had 5, and now it feels like in the playoffs, maybe they can have a legitimate 8. Yeah, I mean, I personally would right now have them 3rd in the West. I think OKC deserves to stay where they're at, and I think Houston is a clear 2. But I think Denver's right there, and that I would have them ahead of where the Lakers are, the Warriors are, the Timberwolves are, even though the Timberwolves are in the back-to-back conference finals.
Although I don't want to turn my back on the Rockets,
buddy.
But I want to see it. I want to see it work with Durant.
I don't want to steal Brew's bit, especially when he's not here. But I lived in Houston. You can't take the Rockets from me. Just like
you never rooted for the Rockets once.
What do you mean?
You've never said a nice thing about the Rockets.
What?
You know when you say something nice about the Rockets, you know what's followed by? Oh, Hakeem Olajuwon.
No.
You haven't said a nice thing about Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, yeah.
Oh, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, now they have an all-time great player once again, just like in the days of Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee, the Bucks trying to make a run at it. Waive Dame and will stretch his contract out for quite a long time. Brook Lopez to the Clippers, but they do sign Miles Turner, fresh off of the finals, although we're still waiting for that signature game that you promised. Do you now consider Bucks a real threat in the East? You can get that Miles Turner.
Yeah.
Here it is, game 1.
This is wild what they did, for the record.
Desperate times.
Waiving and stretching $110 million would previously be unfathomable. To take a $22 million dead money hit for the next 5 years on your salary cap is just not something you ever have seen in the NBA. Now, maybe you're going to see something similar very soon with the Suns and Bradley Beal if they buy him out, but that would be different to be a buyout, not a waive and stretch. But still, it's remarkable that they did this, but like you said, desperate times. It's the 3rd mortgage on the house, which most banks, the bank that will give you that is, you're paying 40% interest. But it does make them, for next season, more interesting because Dame was, I don't believe, going to play next season. And so you add Miles Turner in place of a guy who was going to be on basically injured reserve all year. Here's my answer. It would take Giannis reaching 2018 LeBron in Cleveland level, which maybe is on the board.
I mean, it should be.
That 2018 Cavs team, even though he got hurt in the playoffs, had Kevin Love, who was a diminished version of peak Kevin Love. So that's the comp for Miles Turner, and then a bunch of weird pieces. Mm-hmm. And LeBron was just like, yeah, in this conference, I think I can do it. And listen, it took 2 7-game series just to get out of the East. It took a couple game winners. He had 8 40-point games in those playoffs. But for a guy like Giannis, who had, or maybe I should use present tense, has top 10 all-time player potential, like it would take one of those runs where it's just